And we're live. Welcome, friends, to the Collectors Series. I am so incredibly fired up to have this guy on because this was the first guy I ever listened to on sports content. Like, I didn't even know there was sports card content. You know, I was just trying to get a Marco Gonzalez, my buddy Marco Gonzalez's card, and a Ken Griffey Jr. upper deck card because I'm like, hey, I remember that. I wanted that as a kid. And then all of a sudden I'm stumbling across Dinging Corners. And then in this Bowman prospecting, I was like hooked. I bought everybody. I've sold everybody. I've lost so much money. But now I'm just Ken Griffey Jr., so it's all full circle. But this guy right here, Mr. Nate from Slabstox, how you doing, my friend?
Good. Thank you for having me on this somewhat beautiful Friday afternoon. We had grapple earlier today, so that came out of the sky out of nowhere. Not quite hail, not quite snow, but it covered the ground real quick.
Wow. Well, you're in Spokane, brother. That's what happens. The weather is kind of insane over there. Yeah. So everybody, and people probably know now, I'm a Pacific Northwest guy, Seattle guy, born and raised, thick and through. Up near the Canadian border, of course, big Seattle Mariner fan, big hockey fan. But then Nate's over here now. He's trying to get as close to me as he possibly can because he knows that I need some support over here because there's just me and my guy Brent, who I've talked to, Deep Value Investor One. There's not a lot of us that are over here in the upper corner of the continent. Everybody's on the East Coast. So, and speaking of East Coast, we have this show is going to be brought to you by the Sports Card Dad channel. I'm working with Dustin now, so happy to be here. Grateful for the Luca guys for giving me an opportunity to jump here. But I have wanted to get Nate on the show for so long. We're going to talk baseball. We're going to talk his journey. Nate, like how did you get into cards? Like talk to, what's the first card you bought? What really hooked you in?
Oh, okay. So, well, to get into cards, we have to go way back to the late 90s when I was a child, a younger child, and we would go into Price's Collectibles at the mall in Greendale, Wisconsin, a suburb of Milwaukee, and they had these packs, these repack packs, right? Just a bunch of cards thrown in, football, basketball, whatever. At the time, I didn't realize they were repack packs. I just thought that's how cards came. You know, it was only till much later where I realized, wow, I never bought actual packs from boxes. I always just bought these things. But they had little tickets inside. Every once in a while, they'd have a ticket. And if you pull the ticket, you could go up, and they were 25 cents a pack, right? You get a group of cards for 25 cents, and you go up and you bring the ticket, and then you got to pick a envelope that had a card in it. And then he would pull out the card, and then he'd let you guess. He'd give you three numbers, and you guess the price. And if you get it right, you get the card. And the very first card I can distinctly remember getting, not buying, but getting, was a Kurt Warner jersey card. I guess this would have been like 2000, 2001 type of time. But Kurt Warner jersey card, I thought it was the coolest thing in the entire world. I was obsessed with it. I touched the jersey all the time. I'd take it out of the piece of the sleeve and just touch the jersey. What did I know? I was a kid. But outside of that, most of our cards growing up were, 80s, 90s junk. And even nowadays, some of the 2002 contenders, Tom Brady was probably like the nicest card I had. All right. Not even that nice, but PSA 10 would have fetched you probably in 2020, 2021, 2022, like $500, $600, $700 or something like that. And then you go back and you look at all these cards I thought I kept in good condition and tough corners, bent, everything like that. So that was the start. And then it was, well, there's Legos and there's video games and, food and everything. And so collecting kind of went by the wayside for a while. And then it was probably about 2015, I would say, maybe 2014. I went with Aaron and his dad to the National in Chicago, and I bought into, I wasn't really into the cards at that point. I was checking out the memorabilia, the balls and stuff, but Aaron's like, oh, you can get these boxes, get autos. So I bought a box, and I got a Kyle Schwarber purple auto in it. And I was like, ooh, I kind of like this, And so then we moved on from that to buying a couple cards here and there, but not really intense. And then Aaron had gotten out of it for like a year stretch. He left collecting it like his senior year. I went and visited him. I was like, hey, who you collecting right now, or who you buying? He's like, oh, I'm not buying anybody. I'm like, oh. I was like, well, if I were you, if I were buying baseball right now, I'd buy either Ronald Acuna, Forrest Whitley, or he was a Yankee, then he got traded to the White Sox, and his career did not. Blake Rutherford. I gave him those three options. And so he went with Forrest Whitley, and he turned like $2,000 into like $6,000 profit in a summer.
Wow.
And I was like, now, of course, what could he have done if he went with Ronald Acuna? But that's beside the point. Yeah. And so from that point on, I'm watching it. He's texting me all the time. Hey, I bought this card. Hey, I bought that card. I'm like, I'm dying inside because I'm like, he's spending so much money off of information I gave him. And if this is wrong, he just wasted a ton of money. He didn't waste money. He made a lot of money. And then it was at that point where I was like, wow, you can make a lot of money for knowledge I already have in my head. Like, I should be doing this. So then Aaron and I started joining together, buying random cards here or there. It still wasn't spending a ton of money because I had college to pay for, apartment to pay for, and stuff. And even to this day, my collection isn't huge. Just random life things, getting married and stuff. You sell off cards to pay for marriage or honeymoon or whatever, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't have that card anymore. I don't have that card anymore. But that's kind of how I got into it and how we started, and it's just it's taken off from there, including with Slabstox.
So how did Slabstox? I mean, we won't talk about this a ton, but I'm just to kind of wrap it all together in a nice bow. How did Slabstox come together? What was the purpose behind that?
So the original purpose was Aaron was looking for a website that you could find like Yahoo Finance for sports cards. Look up a stock ticker, you see the trend. Look up a card, see the trend. There wasn't any. So he wanted to start it. And he shared this idea with me. And then he was like, but I don't know. It's like, even if we start it, it's not like we're going to get anybody to use it. Because back then, there was so many people starting companies in sports cards and not having any following. And they just fell off the map. They don't exist anymore, wasting all that money. So instead, we kind of flipped the script. Aaron started in like the summer of 2017. He started putting graphs to cards. He'd hand pluck all the data off of eBay and make graphs for certain players, and then just put it on Instagram. And the first one he did got 0 likes or like 2 likes in the first like hour and a half, 2 hours. And so he's like, he was going to take it down and quit right then and there. And his brother had to talk him out of it. And then it took off. And then I came on, and then he went overseas, study abroad. And then I came on the January like 1st or 2nd of 2018 and have been working ever since. And so it started with, we want people to use our Yahoo Finance for sports cards. But before we make that, we need people to know us. So let's start an Instagram. Let's start a website and let's get our name out there. And then it went from that to making the website to then realizing how difficult it was and how unprofitable it was for us because we had to hand scrape all the data, to shutting down the website, to being just straight back to media company for sports cards. So
what's really important? And see, that full circle is kind of an interesting conversation. And what's important, the important lesson there, and I think a lot of people learn, is that sometimes you just gotta, really focus on the one thing that you really can capitalize on and do really well, and be that person in that area, that space. You look at like with Sports Card Dad, he's got a huge YouTube following. He does really well there. He does not have a podcast following. There's nothing, you can't just go on Anchor or anything. You're not going to listen to it. You go to, like Luca Tiger Brown, I use them as an example. They had a massive listener base, but the viewer base on YouTube wasn't as big. So it's interesting, but then you just focus on that one area and you can be very profitable. You made a wise decision. You guys, okay, we don't want to deal with this. We're getting ourselves too spread out. Let's just do this. And it's obviously paid off in dividends. I mean, you are an industry leader as far as, our niche industry, but I think it's going to get bigger, and you've positioned yourself beautifully to Yeah, I just it's pretty impressive. So you get involved with cards. Tell me why Bowman Chrome? Why prospecting?
So that stems from, I really think that stems from the Brewers, right? The Brewers have not been very good my entire life. They were good in 2008. They were good in 2011. I would, instead of doing homework in study hall, I'd be reading websites, whatever websites at the time were covering baseball, whether it be Grantland, if Fangraphs was out then. I don't know if it was. I think it was. Stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. And then once I got into college, the Brewers were no longer good, right? And 2012 and beyond, the Brewers weren't good. And so it's like, well, we don't have anything to look forward to on the baseball field, but there are prospects, and the prospects are great. And so, I'm studying up on every single Brewers prospect I can possibly study up on. And that got me in love with, other teams' prospects and like follow along. And then that got me into, the love of Bowman, because it was prospects and not guys playing in the majors, and kind of saying like, oh, when we started this, it was pretty easy. Because not many people had caught on. Like, the prospect game wasn't huge. And so you could buy guys really, really cheap. Like, I bought a Juan Soto auto for $135, and I could have bought it for $70, but I waited another half year to be able to see what he was going to do. And it was still cheap, right? And so it was really, I think, the Brewers being terrible that made me gravitate towards prospects, which made me gravitate towards Bowman Chrome. And then to where we are today, which is, I like both aspects, obviously, but it's always the prospects, and it's always trying to find that diamond in the rough, which has become more difficult. More people are much more knowledgeable about prospects, about baseball, about using Twitter. Twitter was my secret nugget for years. I told people about it, but I didn't think people actually took it seriously. And it was my secret nugget to find guys, Jackson Chourio last year. I didn't buy any because his blues and greens were coming out at close to $100 at the start. And I was like, well, it'll go down. But I was really into Jackson Chourio because I saw a little nugget from Brewers Player Development about him being 18 years old, just turned 18, and he had a couple of maybe home runs or doubles or something that were 105, 106 miles per hour off the bat.
Wow.
I was like that little nugget right there is like, all right, this young, that hard of contact, this is a kid who can, I don't need to see anything else to know I want to take a gamble on him. But then obviously price is a little bit more expensive than I was expecting. So then I didn't buy, and then they got more expensive. So then I didn't buy. And then I owned 0 Jackson Chourios, and now he's the number 1 prospect in baseball by baseball.
I owned 0 Jackson Chourio. Yeah, I was gonna say, man, you must be on like hog heaven with him as your guy right now. Is it because that whole community has, the Chromie community has blown up, where you almost can't get into a guy because it's just, unless, like, you're right, the Twitter is important. I got Mariners Twitter, and that's how I found out about Acosta. I think is a shortstop that's like 6'5". I don't know if you know about him yet, but he's the guy. He's the nugget. I'll tell you. Just, everybody's watching the show now knows it, but he's incredible. He's going to be somebody. He's just this big. He's like a Ronnie Murciano on, even better yet. So there's a lot of potential there. He's got a lot of potential. Big, strong. I'm not sure how hard the velocity on his full contact is, but really, really good baseball player. But you're right. It's harder because there's like Drew Jones is the next guy coming up, right? You're going to have that guy every Jackson Holiday. You're going to have that player, and it's almost like the minute you hit those cards and breaks or whatever, you can just name your price, and then everybody gets priced out almost instantly. So that's tough. That's tough. So let's talk about what you actually have. You have 0 Jackson Chourio. I'm sorry, my friend. That's too bad. Out of all people, you should have a Jackson Chourio. Someone out there have one for Nate. Get a hold of him. This guy deserves to have lots of you are doing this because of this guy, so you owe it to him.
Well, I will say I have been looking. And there was a Jackson Chourio Bowman Heritage Orange auto that I was going to try to get for around 500, and it went for 561. I don't like to spend a ton of money on cards because I like the littler cards that can go from like 10, $15 to 30, 40, as opposed to buying a $500 car that can go down to 200. You know, it could go up to a 1,500, but I'm risk adverse in my investing. My portfolio nowadays has dwindled quite a bit. A lot of it is kind of odds and ends. I have right here, like, you'll find this funny, is that a lot of stuff I own now, some of it isn't even baseball. Like, you got, if you can see outside my ring light,
yeah,
there is Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka Tano from the Clone Wars on card auto. That card is the size of like my head. It's massive.
Yeah.
And like that type of stuff. If you've ever seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or some other shows that Charlie Day is in, I have a Charlie Day, Allen and Ginter auto that I really enjoy. As for baseball specifically, like a lot of the bigger baseball stuff I've sold off. I had an Aaron Ashby Superfractor auto back in the day. I've sold that. BGS 10, Vlad Guerrero Jr. Sapphire, sold that. Stuff like that has been sold. But I've got a lot of like littler Brewers stuff. A bunch of random Bowman Chrome, Bryce Terang, Hedbert Perez, you know, guys like that. Bowman Chrome autos, Aaron Ashby colored Bowman Chrome autos I just never sold. Corbin Burns autos, a couple of those. You know, just random stuff that I can enjoy. A lot of Kansas. I'm a Kansas Jayhawk fan. I was born in Kansas. I grew up in Wisconsin. I hated Wisconsin basketball, Badgers basketball with a passion. So 8-year-old me was like, well, what can I watch if I can't watch Wisconsin basketball because it's miserable? And I saw Kansas play one time and I fell in love. And ever since then, it's been amazing. So I buy a lot of like random, you know, Adoka Azubuike courtside green, or Sviatoslav Mikuluk Dragon Scale, and Devontae Graham Noir auto and stuff like this. A lot of littler stuff, but stuff that I enjoy collecting and seeing and reminding me of said player.
Kansas, yeah, it's Rock Chalk, man. My wife's family is all from Kansas, and huge really? Kansas. Oh yeah, huge. I mean, we go over there. Huge Kansas basketball fan. My father-in-law watches every game. Big Kansas fan. I buy him like a sweatshirt every year. He doesn't really wear them, but big Kansas fan. So I've kind of pseudo adopted Kansas. My main basketball team is Gonzaga, obviously. You're kind of in that backyard there, but those Zags are my first team. But yeah, I've sort of been adopted into the Kansas. It's kind of cool being a fan of a team that's always good. Like it's just, I don't know that feeling being I don't know the feeling being a Mariner fan. It's hard, you know. We've got like 3 things we've done okay, and we got my main guy Griffey, but you know, Kansas is cool. It's like, we're always good. It's almost boring how good we always are.
It's so I've got the Jayhawks, always good. The Packers, always good. We'll see about this year. And then on the flip side, I've got the Brewers and the Bucks. Now the Bucks have a championship, and they have Giannis, and they might win another championship this year. Who knows? But it's been you know, for every success story I've had with the Packers and the Jayhawks in my life, I've had the inverse of that with the Bucks and the Brewers. Unfortunately,
well, you had Alex English in the '80s. That's probably dating you there, but yeah, I think that was the years they weren't so great. But well, at Packers, you got maybe Aaron Rodgers. Are you okay with seeing Aaron Rodgers leave?
I am. It's at a certain point, like it's just like, thank you for doing what you did for our organization, and I hope you win a Super Bowl with New York, type of thing. Because I mean, what are we gonna do? We're in a terrible spot financially. We keep Aaron Rodgers around. Maybe if he's healthy, we make the playoffs. He had a broken thumb last year, but we're not beating some of those teams with that roster. Yeah. So then it's all right. You keep him around. You spend all that money. You don't make the playoffs, or you do and you lose, and then he's gone anyways. Yeah, I'd rather at least get something for him.
Right.
And see if Jordan Love can play.
So talk to me about grading. You know, I think when I first started, I just kind of gravitated towards Bowman or Beckett because of Bowman Chrome. It seems like Bowman 9.510s were like, that's the card. You know, I didn't worry about Min Gem Plus, all this. And, you know, we're not doing hot takes here, so you don't need to talk about Beckett, what latest Beckett stuff. But I want this to be more evergreen. What are your thoughts on grading? Do you just doesn't matter? It's the card. But with some of these cards that we target with Bowman Chrome, it's like, you know, it's not like they're super rare. So what would you rather? How do you see that Bowman PSA?
So let me start with just back in the day, we graded with Beckett. Right? Back when we started, it was got to grade with Beckett. And then let me mute that quick.
You're good. This is probably going to be the most hard-pressing question I'll give you.
Okay. So back in the day,
we safe space.
I like it. Back in the day, we graded with Beckett. When Aaron and I started our collecting at the same time, I was never confident enough to grade. Like if Aaron wasn't sending in cards and wasn't willing to look at the cards for me, I wasn't grading them. And then when we started buying cards together, he was looking at them and grading them. My grading eye's gotten a lot better. I'm pretty confident in what I send in now, but back then I was a scaredy cat, so to speak. So we always sent with Beckett, and then along the lines, and Bowman, everything was Beckett. All of it was Beckett, and then along the lines of 2020-ish, 2019, 2020. Beckett started prices increasing, terrible communication, backlogs like crazy, and PSA had backlogs, and SGC wasn't really known for anything outside of vintage. You fast forward to today, we are obviously partners with SGC. No, the prices are not there compared to PSA. They're not. SGC 10 and a PSA 10 are not similar priced cards. I will admit that, but they do have something that some of these other companies don't have, and that is speed and customer service. They are very quick and they are very good to you. Whereas, PSA is not. Now, PSA can get away with that because while they aren't quick, their values are insane. So they don't have to be good to you. They don't have to be quick, as long as their values hold up. So like for me, I would use PSA or SBC. Without a doubt, I wouldn't hesitate at all using those two companies. I don't think I'll ever touch Beckett again. And not just because of the snafu that they just had the other week with all their BGS stuff, but because, number one, the prices aren't there, right? You look at the prices of BGS 9.5s compared to PSA 10s, they're terrible. You look at the prices of BGS 9s compared to PSA 9s, they're terrible. And then I can make more money by sending in and getting an SGC 9.5 and not a 10 than I could sending into Beckett and getting a BGS 9. And so you have that little nugget, and then you also have the fact that it was always so slow and it was more expensive. And their customer service was terrible. And once you're like that and you see what the other companies are doing, you're just not getting me back. And so I get that a lot of the Bowman Chrome community likes Beckett. And I get that SlabSticks is a partner with SGC. But for me, grading wise, if it's not PSA or it's not SGC, I'm not sending it in.
I think it's good you're authentic about that. You're being transparent about it. You're like, you're obviously, you have a partnership with SGC, nothing wrong with that. I'm going to send in like my 20 card Ken Griffey Jr. Project 2020. Remember that? Project 2020 set. I just have the ones I bought. I put that set together. Probably one of the only things that happened that was positive in 2020 for me when it comes to cards, because I don't have a single one of those left. Because I was buying Alex Bregman, and I can't believe I bought that clown. Sorry, that's about as negative I'm going to be ever hear DPZ there. Is I cannot stand the Astros with everything in my body. I do not like them. My daughter, I'm tangenting now. My daughter and I go to a game, and she goes, "Dad, why do they keep booing these two players, Altuve and Bregman?" It's like, Rhea, it's because they cheated. Oh, that's not good. They're cheaters. Exactly. Boo. I'm like, this is the only time I'll let you boo anybody because you don't really want to boo people. But
How
let it happen.
How do you feel about Yordan Alvarez?
I like Yordan Alvarez. I don't blame Pena either because Pena and Alvarez weren't part of that.
Correct. Sometimes people get that lost. And so they're like, I hate the Astros. I hate Yordan Alvarez. I'm like, how do you hate out Yordan Alvarez? Dude's a stud.
And they don't boo him, Nate. They don't boo him. They don't boo him. They don't boo Pena. I mean, it's just because baseball fans know, and I've got some stories too that I've been told by, Major League Baseball. But I know some stuff. So there's a good reason. Anyway, I'm going to send all those Griffey cards into SGC to have them graded because it's a great collectible. I love the way that slab feels amazing. I'm not sponsored by anybody, so I can say whatever I want. I'm with you. I think the slab looks amazing. Is the price there? No. But I have my Patrick Kane RPA. Big Patrick Kane fan. I've got that in an SGC sleeve. Doesn't bother me. I just like the way it looks. So I'm a big SGC fan. Mm-hmm. PSA to me, as far as the cards I need to stay valuable, I'd rather them be in a PSA. I've got 2 Bowman Chromes. I got the Acuna and I got the Mike Trout. I think those will be okay because of the cards that they are. I mean, more so the Trout because it's Trout. There's 53 PSA 10s. I don't trust myself busting that out of the sleeve and trying to get a 10. So
that's fair. And they would unlikely cross it over to a 10 if you don't bust it out.
Yeah. So I'd have to bust it out and I just don't feel like it's worth it. But you're right. The price discrepancy, that card is a $7,000 card in a BGS 9.5 and it's a $12,000 card in a PSA 10. That I just don't understand that. Doesn't make sense to me. That's just way
when you destroy your company image.
Yeah, it's true. That has something to do with it, right? Yep. Well, we're up against a little bit of time here. I want to give you, I'm going to ask, this is the final question we're going to ask here. I'll let you scoot on out of here. It's a little bit shorter of an episode, but, Nate's got a break to get to, and he's got stuff to do. Slabstox has to keep moving. We'll definitely do another one because there's going to be more things to talk about, and we'll definitely have you be a part of the show again because we're going to be doing this weekly for as long as I can keep talking. But here's what I will ask you. So, Nate, this is the question we ask everybody. You have to leave that house as quickly as you can. And, of course, you have your beautiful wife with you and your dogs and your animals and your kids are all safe. Everything that's obviously way more important than sports cards or memorabilia is all secure. But now you can grab a handful of things that you can only carry in your arm. What are you taking with you? What would you not leave behind?
Well, you've heard about 2 of them, Charlie Day and the triple auto Star Wars Clone Wars card. Have to have those, especially the Charlie Day. That was a birthday present from my brother back in the day. Cool. So gotta have those. Other collectible things I would be trying to find to get out of here. I've got a Ben McLemore. Kobe, like that, the 2013, 2014 Kobe, the Giannis card's super expensive. Yep. The jersey, I've got Ben McLemore, one of those. I love it. It's not expensive. I'd still want it. And then I would probably take a guess on which box has my most valuable random cards in it and just pull that one out and hope I'm right as I'm running out the door. But those are probably the 3.
Nice. That's good. That's probably all you could probably carry. That's a realistic thing. I think Drake's PC, he had like 25 things he was grabbing. Like, Drake, are you sure you're going to get all that? That's a lot of stuff. Some people get really anxious when asked this question, like seriously anxious. I'm like, okay, it's just a question. But it's good to know people are passionate about their collections and the things they have. Nate, thanks so much for joining the show. We appreciate having you on. We'll have you on again. And I'm looking forward to having your buddy Aaron on too. I'd love to talk more about Wisconsin basketball with him and find out how he feels about it.
No, you wouldn't want to talk about that. Snooze fest.
Snooze fest. Well, playoff hockey is here, and we'll probably run this show at some point soon so that we can enjoy maybe some playoff hockey with the Kraken. And I know you're wearing a very cool Kraken sweatshirt. Thank you for representing the PNW. Thank you for trying to move closer to myself, so I have some company over here in the card land. But
yeah, there's not a ton of. Real quick, sorry for cutting you off there, but there's not a ton of card collecting, or there's no shows. There's no shows out here.
Nothing. Dude, it's a wasteland. We're just kind of hanging out by ourselves. There's a lot of the closet Griffey people, tons of great Griffey collectors around here, but those people don't go to shows. They don't even talk about what they've got. They're probably part of some message board somewhere, and that's about it. So our hobby community that are, which is a pretty small world if you think about it. No, I think you're a transplant. I'm the original guy over here anyway. We're pretty lonely over here. So thank you for joining us, folks. Go check out Slabstox if you don't already. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you already know who they are. Keep watching their content. It is incredible. I only follow a handful of people and have always followed Slabstox since day one. So if you saw me on Luca, Tiger, and Brian, that's because of this gentleman right here and Aaron and their show that connected me to Cage. And then that's kind of how I got involved in all this stuff. So I have Nate to thank, and I will be treating Nate in the future to some cool stuff from sports in the Seattle area to thank him the proper way. But in the near term, thanks for sharing all your story with us, Nate, and check us out on the Sports Card Dad channel. If you want to watch this video, you want to comment below, tell us what you like about this, any questions we should ask Nate next time. Because this guy's he's got a lot of secrets, and we only learned a little bit of what he has to say. I think he likes to. I'm not calling a sandbagger, but I feel like he's got a lot, but he just holds it back. But that's okay. That's okay. Anyway, thanks, Nate, for being on the show. And anything you want to say to the audience? Go check if anything to follow. Click link.
Well, thanks for having me. Number one. Number two, this upcoming Monday, I don't know when you're airing this episode. So Monday, the 17th, I'm appearing on a show called Foul Territory. This episode might come out after that point, but if you want to go on to the Foul Territory YouTube, and check out that show, I will be talking sports cards with Scott Braun, formerly of MLB Network, and Todd Frazier, formerly of the Cincinnati Reds and New York Mets, who hit a bunch of home runs against my Milwaukee Brewers. So it should be a wonderful time, and I'm looking forward to it. So if you could, if you're listening to this and you want to, after you're done listening to this podcast, you want to run over there and give that a follow or a listen or whatever, so that they think I was valuable to them, that'd be awesome.
You bet. It's probably going to run after. It'll run like 4 or 5 days after on that Saturday. But you know what, folks? You're listening to this now. Go back and check it out. He's going to be on that channel, and this is pretty cool stuff. It's going to show you how far these gentlemen have come, and it's well-deserved. I'm very excited. I'm going to check it out. Again, Nate, thanks a lot. We'll talk real soon, and we'll get you back on the show at some point to continue the conversation. But in the near term, enjoy the 2023 baseball season. I hope your Corbin Burns keeps having he's doing pretty well. Hope that keeps going, and hope our Mariners finally pick it up and start playing the way they're supposed to play. And in the near term, take care of yourself, everybody out there. Thanks for watching the Collectors Series. I am DPZ at PC with DPZ. Go follow Nate at Slabstox Nate on Instagram, and go check out Slabstox. We'll talk to you soon.